Alright, so this video is going to be about the golden child, alright? And there's something you need to know about the golden child. And this is not to invalidate your abuse, right? Especially as a scapegoat, because I fucking know. I am the scapegoat, alright? I have literally, as a scapegoat, there's literally nothing in my life that has went right as a scapegoat. And I'm sure that's the case with many of you as well. As a result of being the scapegoat in the narcissistic family and the damage that has been dealt to me, there is nothing that has gone right in my life. Alright? Not relationships, not jobs, not money, nothing. Nothing has ever been in order. Nothing has ever lasted that was good in my life, alright? So I get it. Being the scapegoat is horrible. But the golden child has something. In the end, the golden child, I would say, suffers a fate worse than death. And this is essentially their punishment for being the narcissistic, the narcissist favorite. Alright? Especially with, my sister, what she's going to. The golden child takes it the hardest, alright? Or I should say the golden child goes through it the worst, because essentially they are condemned to, just like the narcissist, a state of arrested development forever. The golden child does not ever grow up. They cannot ever grow up. Their minds have literally been so broken by the narcissist, so molded by the narcissist, so trauma bonded by the narcissistic parent from the emotional and covert incest that happens in a lot of the narcissistic families. In my case, the infantilization, like it's not even. I don't even know where to begin to describe it. Like, they are so far gone from reality. They're essentially they're essentially a puppet to your parents. Like my sister, and not saying that I don't feel any love towards her, yes, but my sister is essentially going to be a puppet. Mentally, she is in arrested development, all right? She's basically, physically, she's a puppet to my mom. I mean, she was molded by my mom in her image. I mean, my mom always used to call her, like, her little mini-me is what she used to call her. But they're literally, the golden child is literally molded in the image of the narcissist. Their soul has been, metaphorically speaking, has been taken out of them. Any kind of person they could have grew up into, their whole personality, everything was changed by this person. They have no identity other than, other than, the number one person being in their life is their mom, right? Is my mom, is my mom is the number one person in her life. But essentially, they've never had any kind of autonomy. Never any kind of, how can I say this? Autonomy, living on their own, being their own person, having kind of relationships in their life. Like, my sister is never going to, yes, she has friends and everything, but she's never going to know what her life could have been like without my mother pretty much enmeshing her emotionally. This is what a trauma bond does. This is what has happened with her. She's essentially trauma bonded to my mother for life. The abuse was so bad that she essentially trauma bonded with my mom, and she does not, it's like when the abuse is so bad, you do not see that person as the perpetrator anymore. You see them as the hero. And essentially that's what happened with my sister, and somewhat to an extent with my brother, except my brother will actually admit, my mom's faults. My sister really doesn't. But that's what happens when you're trauma bonded by a person. You literally, you don't see them as any kind of perpetrator. You just see them as, well, I know they have faults and this and that, but they're still good. No, they're not good people. They're not good people. They were never good people. And my sister is never going to understand it. The golden child's never going to understand that, because the the way she was treated, right? The way the golden child is treated outweighs the abuse. They don't even see the abuse, even when it's not physical or when it's not emotional abuse, it's not verbal abuse. Even when that's not happening, and even the golden child goes through that, just like the scapegoat goes through that. But the kind of abuse that they don't see is the infantilization. The golden child is infantilized the hardest out of the entire family, given everything she wants, everything he or she wants, the golden child. And the golden child growing up, they equate this to love, right? They equate this to love because to them it feels like love. It feels like love to them because they're getting showered and peppered with these gifts and these things, and it feels good, right? At the moment it feels good, but little does the golden child know that the more that this happens, the more autonomy and sense of self they essentially lose, because they believe they get turned into the golden child gets turned into a little narcissist. They get turned into essentially a narcissist, like the narcissistic parent, where they're so used to, and this is all done on purpose, they're so used to everything being revolving around them, they're so used to everything revolving around them getting, like, for example, when my sister, when I was growing up, and me and brother were growing up, my sister would get everything. If she wanted cupcakes for dinner, she would get cupcakes for dinner. If she wanted pizza instead of meatloaf or hamburger helper for dinner, she would get pizza and meatloaf or whatever for hamburger helper for dinner, right? If she wanted tacos, right, instead of instead of in vegetables and something healthy, vegetables, rice or beef, she would get that. Whatever she wanted. She wanted whatever present she wanted, whatever thing she wanted. If she wanted to go out with her friends, she would get it. And this is all done on purpose, right? The narcissist has this entire system planned, right? They know who the scapegoat's going to be. The narcissistic parent knows who the scapegoat is going to be. They know who the lost child is going to be. So the lost child is in the middle, right? The lost child is in the middle, and they get attention, but they don't get attention like the golden child necessarily, and they're not abused like the scapegoat, right? So the golden child, or the lost boy, is kind of in the middle, but we'll get into that in another video. But the golden child, because she or he is raised like this her entire life, she or he believes that they are entitled to everything. This creates essentially an arrested development and narcissistic type of personality, where they can't see anything. They can't see what has been done to them. They can't see that they still have the mindset of someone who's 10 to 12 years old, because when you've gone through, not only like my sister has, well, all of us have, we've gone through infantilization, but I woke up out of it and I realized, like, all these things that I still like, they're not serving me anymore. Like, yes, I still think, for example, like video games and all these, but there's a time and a place, and sometimes, like, when you grow up, you have to put these things to the wayside, and you have to focus on being an adult. You have to focus on making money, because money, unfortunately, if you don't have money, you don't really have anything, because everything costs money in this life, right? You need money to do anything. But the golden child never really snaps out of it. Like, they never snap out of this entitled personality. They have this narcissistic personality that was molded by the narcissistic parent. This me attitude of I deserve this or I deserve that, and the golden child has it worse, because they essentially never grow up. They stay in arrested development, and they're essentially just a younger version of your mother or your father. And you know, they and the worst part is, especially with what my sister went through after being infantilized, she almost has she has an inability to make decisions. I mean, she doesn't know how to make decisions. She's like she's had pretty much everything paid for her. Like, yes, she's worked jobs and stuff in the past. She's worked, you know, regular jobs and things like that in the past, right? But you know, I'm pretty sure my mom still like controls her money. She still helps her with X, Y, and Z, and it's under the guise. All of this is under the guise of helping you, all right? It's under the guise of trying to help you, but it's not. Everything that my parents have done was to try to make us dependent on them as possible. So we have no choice. We have no other choice other than to depend on them. Like, this is why it's so dangerous. It took me literally going homeless to get away from them because of the other abuse tactics that they were going through. All right, like sleep deprivation, a whole bunch of different tactics. I'm gonna get into. I'm gonna get into in the next video, as to why it took me so long to leave. But the golden child, in the end, has a fate worse than death, I would say. It really is. Because they are essentially infantilized and they are babied into a state of forever arrested development. Like, where they never grow up. They always have an entitled attitude. They act like a little baby. They act like little babies, the golden child. The golden children act like little babies, and they can't ever get out of it. They can't ever grow up. They can't ever see the error of their ways. And it's really sad. They don't ever question the parents, the narcissist, whether or not they're narcissists. Like, they don't grow up. They don't question things. So that's the end of the video. If you liked it, leave a like, put a comment down below, and as always, I'll talk to you in the next one. Take care.